All right, so now we're recording. So business communications, like I said, a reminder that there is the cover letter due end of business today. 5 o'clock is what's set on Moodle. So I want to move on to the next thing that I want to go over. And it'll be the next type of letter that we want to write. And we're going to stay with the formal business letter format. So the next few are going to be in that format, but this one's going to be a persuasive letter. Okay, so it's a different type of writing, not very different from what you were doing with your cover letters, because a cover letter is a persuasive letter, but it has a lot more to do with you than it does over trying to convince somebody to do something. So in reality, a persuasive letter or doing persuasive writing, the definition of persuasion is to try to convince somebody to do something that they are not necessarily inclined to do. I need to convince you to do something that you didn't think you were going to do today. Okay. Give me an example of persuasion. Okay. You should run into it every day of your life. Melina, give me an example of persuasion that you would run into every day.
See, like with me being an athlete, I'm not a fan of the gym, but my friend always like persuades me to go to the gym because she'll be like, oh, you'll be better, you'll get better, you'll do it. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's an example of you don't necessarily want to go to the gym, but your friends are trying to get you to go there. Anybody else?
Just basically convincing someone to do something.
Yeah. And what I was really looking for was people trying to sell you things. You know, I don't think I can go through an hour of my day without somebody trying to sell me something, whether it's watching a commercial on TV that they're trying to sell me a product, or reading through my emails where I have people sending me email messages trying to convince me to do something that I didn't want to do today. So basically, if you woke up today and you had no intention of doing, A, and somebody is doing their darndest to convince you to do that, that's an example of persuasion. And I think the reality of it is that the most common form of persuasion that you're going to see out there is people trying to sell you things. Okay, so that's the easiest example of persuasion. Now, there's a couple things about persuasion that okay, Melina, you were saying that you don't want to do this, but they try to convince you to do it. I'm sure that sometimes you let them talk you into it, sometimes you don't let them talk you into it. It's not every day the same thing. But let's see, where do I want to go with this? How do you persuade somebody to do something? Okay, because the theory here that what we're beginning with, no, I didn't want to do that. Not that you're necessarily opposed to it, but it wasn't something that you thought you were going to do today. It was not even on your radar, but somebody is trying to convince you to do something. How does somebody persuade you? What method do they use?
I feel like they just tell you things you want to hear, and then they're kind of like, okay, like I'll go.
Okay. All right. And you're very close to what I'm looking for. Who else wants to chip in on this? How do you convince somebody? How do you persuade somebody?
Honestly, like if you're gonna try to like persuade me, there's gonna be some sort of like financial incentive. That's usually the way in which like when I was in Florida over the winter, like my grandma's friends were like, oh, do you want to go out to dinner? And like I can't afford the restaurants we're going to, so they'd be like, oh, but I'll pay for it. So okay, I'll go with you then.
Okay.
Like
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. And really what I was looking for was that in order to persuade somebody to do something, you have to point out what the benefit is to that person. See, if I'm trying to sell you something, I want to sell you some life insurance. I'm not going to come to you and say, you know what? You really need to buy life insurance. You want to know why you should buy life insurance? Because I need to make a living. And if I sell you this policy of life insurance, I get a commission, and that way I can feed my family. Are you going to buy life insurance? No, you're not, because you don't necessarily care about, what happens to me. That's not what's going to motivate you to do something that you didn't plan on doing today. I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not saying against your interest, but what has to happen if you want to persuade somebody, you have to be able to convince them that this is to their advantage, right? So Tyler, hey, you want to go out to eat? Oh, I'd like to, but I can't afford that restaurant. Well, I'll pay. Was that to your advantage? I think so.
It
Okay.
was great. It was
Yeah,
fantastic.
absolutely. And it was a financial advantage, which is even more base, right? And Melina, your friends that are trying to convince you to go to the gym, I'm sure they're telling you, oh, if you go to the gym, it's going to be so much easier to work out. You're going to be able to get it done quicker, and you're going to get so much more benefit from it, right? I'm sure that's exactly what their arguments are. So whenever you want, go ahead, Melina. You have something?
No, I was gonna say, yeah, you're right.
Okay. So realistically, the art of persuasion is trying to convince people that the action that you want them to take is in their benefit. Okay. That's the only way you're going to persuade somebody to do something. It cannot be done in any other way. Very simple. I want you to buy this life insurance from me. What I have to do is I have to tell you how it benefits you. Well, have you ever considered life insurance? Well, gee, no, I really never considered it. I wasn't considering buying life insurance when I woke up today. Well, let me tell you the benefits of life insurance. You have a family, you have a wife, you have children. Well, yeah, I do. Well, what happens if you die? If you die, your stream of income, your income goes away. Who's going to pay to bury you? Who's going to pay the bills? Who's going to pay off the mortgage? How are your children going to be able to afford school or clothes or shoes? Life insurance gives you that capability. No, you're not going to benefit directly, but don't you want to take care of your family? Don't you have an obligation to take care of them? All you have to do is sign this piece of paper and give me money every month or every quarter or every year. And look at all of this security that you're creating for your family. You, sir, are going to be the hero of your family. Oh my God, how can you turn that down, right? Okay, so persuading somebody is basically making them do something that they didn't necessarily want to do, but you have to show them that it's to their advantage. Okay, now every time I go through this particular section of the course, every time, and I don't know if you guys have noticed this yet, it's still pretty close to the beginning of the semester, but when I try a new subject, I want to go through some sort of a class exercise to try and create the process to get to where we want to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give us a problem, and as a class, we are going to tackle it together. Okay, and this is going to be a persuasive problem. Okay, now here's the situation that I want to create. Let's say that you work at a company. It's not a small company, but it's not, by any means AT&T or anything like that. It's a decent sized company. And let's say that you work in the accounting department. You work with let's say you're in the accounts payable department. So your job is to process the invoices that come in for the company. So just to explain what accounts payable is, a job in accounts payable would require, when a company buys goods that they need in order to run the business. Not just anybody is allowed to buy stuff. You have to have authorization to spend the company's money. Okay, so there's only a very few people that have that authority to spend the company's money. One of those people is the purchasing manager. So in a good sized company, you're going to have somebody whose job is to do the purchasing. You have one person and just purely their salary but if the person does their job well, then they can save the company much more money than their salary in savings by purchasing things at better prices. So companies have figured out that, yeah, it's worth spending money to have somebody in that role. But that's the only, one of the only people that's allowed to spend money in the company. So if you, let's say you want to buy supplies for, I don't know, you have to buy safety supplies, first aid kits. You're the production manager, and you realize that the safety kits, the first aid kits have been used, and it's time to replace them. So you need, say, 20 safety first aid kits, and so you go to the purchasing manager and you say, I need 20 safety or first aid kits. He says, all right, I'll get back to you. So he reaches out to his various suppliers and he says, listen, I need to buy some first aid kits. What's the price that you're going to offer them to me? I'm going to need to buy 20 because if quantity is an important issue. So he'll get information from 3-4 different suppliers, and he'll pick the one that's able to provide what they need at the best price. So then what he does is he fills in what's called a purchase order. That's a piece of paper that has his signature on it that says who we're buying it from, who's the vendor. It describes what it is they're buying, and it has his signature because it's authorized. And that's a multi-part form. One part's going to go to the vendor. One part is going to go to the accounts payable department, and one part of it is going to go to the shipping and receiving department. And then, so what will happen is the first aid kits get shipped from the supplier. They come to the loading dock to whoever receives things. And that person, it looks at the package and says, oh, it's from Acme Industries. It says it's 20 first aid kits. And they look through their packaging and they say, oh, yeah, we were supposed to be getting this. So they have what's called a bill of lading, or at least a packing list that shows what was in the box. They take that and they send that off to the accounts payable department. Eventually, the company is going to send an invoice, a bill, saying we need to get paid our $375 or whatever it was for 20 first aid kits. So now in the accounts payable department, the accounts payable accountant, it's your job to make sure before you pay an invoice that it was proper. Okay, so you're going to get an invoice from Acme saying that you owe them $375. You're going to look at it and it's going to say $375 for 20 first aid kits. Okay, seems reasonable. Now you have to look in your purchase orders. Did somebody that had the authority authorize this purchase? You find the purchase order, and there it is, authorized by the purchasing manager, 20 first aid kits from Acme. Then you look into the shipping and receiving department, and you see that there was a packing list that they received a box that had from Acme that had 20 first aid kits in it. So you put those three pieces of paper together. You have an invoice that says you owe money. You have an authorization from the purchasing manager through the purchase order, and you have the packing slip that showed you received it. Now you're allowed to pay that bill. Okay, and on the bill there'll be the terms as to when it needs to be paid, usually net 30 days after the invoice, and the invoice is hopefully dated the day that they ship the stuff to you. So now you know that, whatever, let's say you got the bill 5 days after that it was issued, and so now you set it up for payment 25 days from now, because that's when the 30-day requirement's going to be. That's your job. You do that over and over, and it's not a hard job, but it's a responsible job. You're in charge of safeguarding the company's money to make sure that it's not going someplace that it shouldn't go. It's one of the tasks and one of the controls in a company. Okay. Now, a larger company is going to have an accounts payable department where we're going to have multiple people that are working doing these functions. Okay, so let's say that the department that you're in, there are 5 of you that are doing this job in the accounts payable department. And let's say that you've been with the company for 10 years. And over that entire 10-year period, there have always been 5 people in the department. But over the past 10 years, the company has doubled in size. It used to have $50 million in sales. Now it has $100 million in sales. The company is twice as big as it once was. You realize that you're overworked, that you're being required to work overtime. Everybody in your department is, in order to make all of the deadlines and make sure that everything is processed and paid the way that it's supposed to be done, that you are constantly working overtime. If you don't put in the overtime, the work doesn't get done. And you decide, you and your department, you all get together and decide, you know what? we're overworked and understaffed. You know, we've had 5 people in this department for 10 years. The company is twice as big as it once was. Yes, I know that there's advantages and things have gone forward in technology and whatnot. So maybe we don't need 10 people in the department, but we've grown so much that we need more than just the 5. We have to hire another person because we just are overworked. Okay. So you being the one with 10 years seniority, you've been in the department the longest, they draft you to be the person who's going to go to the boss and ask him to get another employee into your department. Boss, we need to hire another person because we're just overworked. Okay, there's your problem. There's your persuasive problem. You need to convince your boss. You know, when he woke up this morning, he wasn't planning on expanding his department. He wasn't planning on having to hire a new person. So let's think about how you would need to persuade the boss. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up, and I guess I should do this before I try to share. I'm going to put up a blank sheet of paper, if you will, and I am going to. We're gonna sort of brainstorm all of this. So give me a second. I get a Word document up. There we go. I'll share my blank Word document with you guys. And hopefully it picks it up as I'm typing stuff on it. All right, so we need to convince the boss to hire a new employee. And keeping in mind that the way to do that is to convince the boss that what we want him to do is in his best interest. Who has an idea? What kind of an argument could we make? Anybody? How about productivity? Extra person equals more work. Okay. Is that good enough? Can we stop there? What I want to do is I want to come up with, I don't know, 20 arguments as to why we need this person. Okay. We're going to get an extra person means extra work. All right. So what else?
Efficiency.
All right. Efficiency. What else? Now, Tyler, you're a very big one in saying that we need to have some financial incentives here. So can we find a financial incentive for the boss?
I don't think there's a financial incentive in hiring another person.
But-
Maybe it might cut costs on a project because maybe it'll take a couple weeks less, but yeah, I can't. Yeah, I don't know. Usually in my experience at work, when we add more people on our team, it usually ends up with my hours getting cut. So
Okay, well, this is a situation where everybody's, currently working overtime to get the work done. So how about this? If we add another person, we will end up cutting overtime costs. Yeah, if you think about it, if you're paying overtime, then you're paying at a premium. You're paying 1.5 times the going rate. So if you could put another person in at 40 hours, how many overtime hours does that get rid of? So if we're putting in, say, 80 overtime hours a week across the department, then putting in an employee at 40 hours, we're probably getting rid of 60 of those overtime hours. So there's actually a financial incentive there. What else? Okay, once again, trying to convince the boss that this is to his advantage, not ours. Anybody? How about reputation? The department known for not getting the work done. So right now we have a reputation for being a department that doesn't get the job done. Okay, what does that do to the boss's reputation? Okay. What else?
Timeliness on projects.
All right. Staying with that, if we're going to start meeting our deadlines, let me put it this way. I described what our job is, and our job is to pay the bills for the company. We've got the utility bills, we've got the rent bills, we've got the bills to pay our suppliers for the raw material they send us for the manufacturing process that we're doing, the supplies that we need, office supplies, as we saw, safety supplies. What happens if we don't do our job right? What's the punishment or the consequences of us not getting things paid?
Companies won't want to work with us.
Right. So it's the company reputation. Beyond that, if we don't pay the bills when they're due, there's generally going to be a late fee that's going to be charged by our supplier, either in some sort of a percentage or some sort of a just plain old late fee. So we could theoretically be cut encountering late fees and interest. If we added the new person, we were able to get our job done better, we would have a better relationship with our suppliers. Anything else?
Employee morale will be increased.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
Employee morale will increase.
Oh yeah,
like
yeah,
More
definitely.
people are doing less.
Yeah, because if everybody's working, overtime every week, it gets kind of old after a while, right? Everybody enjoys the extra pay for a while, but then at a certain point, you kind of want your days off, or you want to be able to get home. You want to be able to get home and say you're several years down your career, you're married, you've got kids, your daughter's soccer game is this afternoon, and you promised the wife and your daughter that you'll be at the soccer game, but no, the boss says you got to work because you didn't get all the payables done today. So your morale is going to be better if we cut down on overtime. Anything else?
I don't know if this falls under cutting overtime costs, but I would say like flexibility in terms of scheduling.
Okay, let's put that down. CHEDU. Geez, that's my typing. Sorry about that. Okay, flexibility and scheduling. I think that's actually something that would go towards employee morale, making employee morale better. You could theoretically change the way that you schedule the time in the office. You could go to some sort of a flex time. I know in various places that I worked, it wasn't, oh, you have to be at your desk from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock and you get an hour for lunch. Did I lose you guys for a while there?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, weird. All right, so go back to sharing screen. Am I sharing my screen, or what do you guys see? You guys see me, or you see the screen?
No, it's just you now.
Just me. Okay, let's try and share again. All right, here we go. Yeah, we have the storm going on out there, so I'm getting a message that my internet is unstable. So we'll see how long this can go on. All right. Misspelled reputation. All right, so we have a few things here. Okay, productivity, extra person equals more work. We'll have more efficiency. We'll cut costs on projects, cutting overtime costs. Reputation, the department is known for not getting the work done. The boss's reputation, because he's in charge of the department, is not getting the work done. Timeliness, we'll start meeting deadlines. We'll improve the company's reputation. We'll cut the encountering of late fees and interest charges. We will get better relationship with our suppliers, and I'm going to put on there possible discounts. So we could actually even create a discount situation as opposed to a late charge situation. The employee morale will get better. We'll create flexibility because we have the extra person in the department. So, all right, that's good enough for right now. Okay, so we decide, we get together as the group of us and we decide that this is the argument that we want to give to the boss. Okay, realistically, I would probably, before I put this together to go to the boss about it, I'd try to put everything into categories. But I think this is a good list of things to go to the boss with. Here's your problem. When you go to the boss, what's his answer going to be? Before you even think about it, before you even get to give any of these examples, hey boss, we've been in the department, we've been thinking, we've been doing a lot of overtime and this has been going on for a long time. So we really think that we need to have an increase in staffing, that we should hire another accounts payable accountant. What's the first words out of the boss's mouth? No. How am I going to afford that? It's not in the budget. I'd have to get my boss's permission. You guys should just work harder. Those types of arguments, do you think? I think those are the
Sounds
type
about right.
Yeah, I think those are what your boss is going to do, because he's not going to want to do this right off the top of his head. So once again, what we need to do is we need to go into these reasons, and we have to, and this is another thing that I want to point out as far as the communication aspect of this class. What you need to do in many different circumstances is, it's not just, okay, here's my message. I want to get my message across and try to find the best way to say it, okay? Either in writing or in presentation, oral form. But what you want to do is, especially if this is going to be done in writing. And so let's say the boss says that he wants us to put this in writing. He doesn't want to sit and talk about it, to put it in writing and I'll consider it. So we have to put this in writing. Whenever you do anything in writing, especially if it's a persuasive communication, you have to take the next step. Because the problem with doing it in writing is you don't have the opportunity to defend your work at the time that the communication is being made. Because what's going to happen every time in a communication that's persuasive is the person that you're trying to persuade, they will have an argument against what you want them to do. Now, we feel comfortable in the situation that we're in, that we need to have the boss hire another employee. And we believe that we have all of the arguments on our side. But one big thing you're going to find in the world is that there's this law of inertia. People don't want to change if they don't have to. Life is much easier if I'm allowed to just continue moving along at the pace that I'm moving along. Don't make me be innovative. Don't make me have to think. Just let me continue rolling along and not having to really think about my job. How many of you, have been in, I know when I'm driving from place to place, I call it going into autopilot, where I don't have my mind on. I know exactly where I'm going, and basically I'm just trying not to get killed while I'm driving. I could be 3/4 of the way from point A to point B before I even stop to think about where am I, because it becomes very second nature. I go on autopilot. Same thing in the job force, in the workforce. People don't want to have to think. They want to have the easiest job that they can. Now, there are people that work in creative positions. I understand that. And their jobs are to be creative and they enjoy the creativity. But a lot of people just live in their routine. and they don't really think about what it's going to take to make something change. Okay. I have this one flaw in being a lawyer. When I try to make an argument that, I've gone to court, so many times with an innovative argument that I wanted the judge to do something that was unusual because it was the right thing to do. But because it required too much effort on the part of the judge was not in the mood to be innovative. The judge was not in the mood to be creative, because that's just going to create so much more paperwork for me. It's so much easier for me to just say, no, this is the way we've always done it, and on we go. It's hard for me to win those innovative arguments, and I get into those innovative arguments when I can't rely on the result that I want on status quo. But anyhow, inertia is a big problem out there. Your boss doesn't want to have to go to his boss. Your boss doesn't want to have to try and figure out how to make this work in the budget. The boss doesn't want to have to put all that effort into things. I'm not saying he's a lazy person. I'm just saying nobody wants to take on more work than they have to. So getting your boss to say something other than no, it's hard, because he's going to have plenty of reasons to say no. And most of them are going to be because I don't want to make a change. All right. So let's talk about the things that we have out here that are really going to bite at the boss. Okay. Hey, we want this additional person. So what are the arguments that the boss is going to give us back? Well, it's not in the budget to add a new person. We don't have the physical space for another person where we are. There's 5 of you in this room, and I can't fit a 6th person in this room. I would need to buy another computer. I would have to buy another desk. I'd have to buy another chair, a filing cabinet. We'd have to have office furniture. Where's the money going to come from? Those rejections are very, very easy. So what we need are the arguments. And in our presentation letter, in our letter to the boss, in our persuasion letter, not only do we have to tell him what we want and why we think it's a good idea, we need to anticipate what his rejections are going to be. Because see, him asking for it in writing prevents us from getting into an argument. He doesn't want to get into that argument with us. He wants to do this in as smooth a manner without creating a whole lot of animosity between himself and us. That's why he's asking for it in writing, because he doesn't want to get into the argument. So he wants us to send him a letter that says, these are the wonderful things that'll happen. And then he's just going to send a memo back saying, no, I'm going to reject this request because I can't afford it, or there's no room, or, whatever the reasons are. We need to address the rejections in our initial letter before he can give us his reasons why he wants to reject it. Because then he'll look silly trying to use one of the reasons that we've already explained isn't appropriate. Okay, so we have to be very aggressive. And think about it. Think of anything you've received in the mail where somebody was trying to sell you something. Was it aggressive, or was it very, very passive? It was very aggressive. They're after you. They're going to tell you why this is to your advantage, and they're going to tell you why you're wrong in thinking you don't need their product. That's what we have to do to the boss here. Okay, so let's go down here. Let's anticipate his rejections. Okay, so not in budget. Physical space. Office equipment. Wow. Computer. What else? What other arguments can the boss throw at us that are going to be very simple? How about this one? Jeez. N-E-L and N-E-L-L. I don't know, whatever. So it's not in the budget. We don't have the physical space for another person. We don't have any office equipment for this person. We don't have any computer for this person, and no other department is asking for additional personnel. Okay, there's your rejections. Can you think of anything else that the boss can throw at you? Anybody? Because if we don't address it now, then we're going to lose our argument because we forgot to address a perceived rejection. Anybody? Okay, if not, this is fine. These are, these are decent. Okay, so in the letter, it's going to say, "Dear boss, the purpose of this letter is to express to you our belief that we need an additional person to be hired in the accounts payable department. Because of the fact that the staffing has been at 5 persons for the past 10 years, and over the past 10 years, the company has more than doubled in size, we believe that the workload, that the increased workload has not been taken into account in the question about staffing. As a result, we believe that with the addition of 1 person, we will be able to take the pressure off of the 5 people currently in the department and make and create a better work-life balance." Oh, there's some good words for you, right? Maybe the boss cares about that. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know, but there's some jargon for you. Next paragraph. Looking at this from your point of view, we can see that there are reasons why you would be reluctant to give us the additional person that we are asking for. Number one, you could say that this additional personnel is not in the budget. How are we going to pay for this additional person? Well, the reality of it is that there are 5 of us in the department, and every week there is, let's say everybody's doing 10 hours of additional work every week. So that's 50 hours of overtime that is paid by this department on a weekly basis. 50 hours at time and a half comes out to 75 hours of straight pay. If we were to hire 1 person, we would add in 40 hours, which would then be the equivalent of 60 hours worth of work, something to that effect. So although the addition of 1 person would not completely alleviate all of the overtime requirements in the department, it would cut back by 40 hours of overtime, which is actually 60 hours of pay. So as it stands, you're already paying that 40 hours, but you're paying it at premium time. So therefore, the addition of this 1 extra accounts payable clerk would actually save the department money and allow us to start meeting our budgetary goals. Okay, that sound effective in arguing his first point? Okay. Second point, physical space. We don't have any room for this person. The second argument that you may bring on is that the current location of the accounts payable department is a room that is actually quite tight with the 5 current personnel in the department. Yes, that is actually a concern. We believe that this could easily be overcome in one of 2 ways. First, if we were to ask the company to move us into the B annex, I don't know, maybe there's an empty room somewhere type thing. We'd make the argument that there is the opportunity to move us to a different room that would have the capacity to allow for the 6th person, and maybe a big enough room that at some point we could add a 7th person in the future. So if another room exists, then ask, if it's possible to have the department relocated to that position. Or make the argument, and one of the things up here was flexibility in scheduling, that there's a possibility that we could we could be creative in the way that we put the hours in the department, with the possibility of somebody being remote or using flex time, so that not everybody has to be in the office at the same time, because it's not absolutely necessary for everybody to be there at the same time, as long as all of the hours are put in and the work accomplished. The flexibility in scheduling, if we were to do something like that, that might actually increase employee morale, because then employees would be able to schedule their time in manners that give them the most efficient use of their time and allows them to spend more time with their families and engage in family activities, which could possibly make the employees happier individuals, and therefore have better employees that are more motivated and have a better morale. There you go. There's a couple things that were off of our list of ways that things that'll make life better. And we used it to directly counter his argument that we don't have any physical space there. You may also suggest, Bosch, you may also suggest that we don't have office furniture for this additional individual, and we would probably need to purchase another computer in order to have this person have the appropriate tools to do their job. Agreed. We don't have an extra desk or chair or filing cabinet for this person, and we certainly don't have a spare computer just laying around. And yes, there would be some investment that would be required. So the company would have to put out some money to buy those physical items so that this sixth person would be able to do their job. Once again, pointing out that by cutting back on the overtime, we're actually saving the company significant money, thereby realizing that there is money in the budget that we would not be using for overtime pay, that would instead be used to purchase these items to make the sixth person properly equipped for the position. You may argue that also no other department is currently asking for increased personnel. That may be true at this time, but I do know that over the past 10 years that the accounts receivable department has actually grown by 2 employees, and that the general accounting department has added an additional accountant and a assistant controller over the past 10 years. So it appears that we are the only department that has not asked for additional personnel. Those other departments asked for the increase in personnel, and they were granted those increases because of the perceived benefit to the company. So now we've argued against all of his rejections. Now we can go back into our reasons why we want to do this and how it can help the company and him, or we could have done that first. How you arrange it in the letter is entirely up to you. But all right, so cutting costs on projects and cutting overtime costs, we've dealt with that. Efficiency, I want to get to that. The reputation here is also something that I think we should deal with. So let's deal with reputation. Next paragraph. You do realize, of course, that we as a department are known as the department that has difficulty completing their assigned tasks. That poor reputation for the department is also reflected on management and the employees in the department. I can tell you that the employees we here in the department are not happy about the fact that the company believes that we are not able to perform our job. We believe that we're doing our job with tremendous efficiency. It's just that it's impossible for us to meet the goals because of the just sheer volume of work that we need to do. If we had this additional person, then it would be much easier for us to reach our goals and to get everything done, get the payables processed and paid in a timely manner. That, of course, will increase or improve the reputation of the department, and as a side effect to that, improve the reputation of each of the employees and also the management, meaning that it would increase your reputation in the company if we were able to get our job done in a more timely manner. Okay, that was pretty direct if you think about it. Then what I want to do is I want to hit timeliness and meeting deadlines, because, and then that one's going to be directly related to cut and countering late fees and interest charges. Okay, so additionally, if we're able to efficiently handle the accounts payable function for the company, we will also benefit the company's bottom line. We will add to the profitability of the company by reducing or eliminating any late charges or interest charges that are being incurred because of the late payments of the accounts payable checks. If we're able to process everything in the timely manner and meet all of our deadlines, we will, what you do is you look at the financial information that's available to you from the company. You'll know what kind of late fees you've been paying because you're paying them right through the accounts payable department. So if you're able to tell the company that in last year you paid $30,000 in late fees or interest charges because invoices were paid late, then you just put that number in. By meeting all the deadlines as appropriate, we will save the company $30,000 because we will no longer have late fees and interest charges from late payment of vendor invoices. Okay, so throw that in there. Now you're talking about the company is going to start making more money, have more net income because of the fact that you do this. Then hit the fact that there's a possibility that you're going to have discounts. As a matter of fact, once we establish a better reputation with our vendors, it will be possible for the purchasing department to begin negotiating possible discounts because of our good reputation in timely payment of all vendor invoices. This could also lead to an increase in the bottom line, adding profit to the company for whatever amount of discount we're able to realize through our more efficient processes. Once again, if we're able to point out to upper management that our department was able to cut costs, create discounts, eliminate late fees and interest, and add to the bottom line, this just goes even further toward the creation of a better reputation for this department and the management thereof. Basically, sort of dancing around the words, but telling the boss that he's going to get a raise or possibly a promotion because we're going to be so much better at our jobs. What else is in here that we really want to hit? More work, efficiency, cut costs, cut overtime costs, reputation, boss's reputation, timeliness, company reputation, no late fees, better relationships, employee morale, flexibility in scheduling. Is there anything else do you think that we would need to throw in there to try and make this, to make this argument to the boss? We could also talk about that work-life balance that everybody wants to talk about. Nobody wants to be the person who ends up working 80 hours a week and ends up ignoring their family or not having any kind of a social life. No, I don't think anybody wants to be completely defined by what their profession is, what their job is. Every one of us has things that we do outside of our work life that makes us happy. The boss does too, doesn't he? Now, the question is the boss putting in overtime also because of the fact that we're not getting the work done the way that we should? If he is ending up putting in more time because of the fact that we have to put in more time, then we can also use that as another argument to help make him see the light, so to speak. If we're able to add this additional person, we have, as previously stated, we will cut the overtime for the company, and that means that each of the employees that is currently working 50 hours a week will be back to their normal 40 hours a week with some occasional overtime to get over certain busy times. This will lead to a much better work-life balance for the employees of the departments, and also for you. We know that you have a family and children that you would like to spend time with, but because of the fact that we are having such difficulty meeting our deadlines and getting our work done, that this is requiring you to put in more time. As a result, if we're able to do our job in a much more timely manner and get everything done in the expected 40 hours per week, that would also lead to a lessening of your responsibility to be here to oversee what is happening in the department. If we're able to get our work done and in a more timely manner, that also will lead to a reduction in the need for you to put in extra hours. That could possibly give you the opportunity to, you're going to know your boss. Is it going to be Little League Baseball? Is it going to be Pee Wee hockey? Is it going to be dance recitals? Is it going to be soccer? What are his kids doing? Hit them right there. This will make it possible for you to attend more of your daughter's soccer games, because we know how important that is to you. Believe me, it's important to us, and we know that it's important to you. And we're just trying to create that work-life balance for everybody in the department. Okay, now that's just off the top of my head. That if I was going to send that to the boss, I'd clean that up quite a bit, probably organize it just a little bit better. But those are the arguments that I'd want to make. Now, I'm going to stop sharing at the moment. What do you guys think? You think you think we're going to win that argument? Jake, what do you think? Is anybody there?
I think we should win.
Okay. It just goes to show that when you want to do any kind of persuasive argument, you have to approach it from the point of view that nobody's going to do something unless there's something in it for them. Okay, so basically in this particular argument, we tried to make it clear that we're trying to create a better work-life balance for the boss. We're trying to improve his reputation in the company. We're not doing it just for him. We're doing it for us too. But the benefits to the boss are he's going to get a better reputation, possibly get a bonus, a raise, or even a promotion. He's going to have a little bit better home balance, so he can go to his daughter's soccer games. We're going to end up making the department look really great, because of the fact that overall, by spending a little bit more money, we're going to be saving the company significantly more money in reduced overtime, reduced late fees, reduced interest, more opportunity for discounts. So that's going to end up, we're going to be able to show, at least our boss is going to be able to show ultimately, show his boss how much better he is at his job than he was yesterday. I don't know, if I'm the boss at this point, I probably want to seriously consider, and that's a hell of an obstacle to get over. Like I said, inertia is a very big enemy here. So if we can convince the boss to consider moving forward with it to the point where he does the research to make sure our numbers are correct, and he feels appropriate to go to his boss to get permission to do this, maybe he doesn't even have to go to his boss. If this is entirely in his hands, then we're done with the arguments. If he has to get permission from whoever's above him, or he has to get permission from human resources or whatever, if we've made him take that step, we've won, because he's at the point where we got him off of relying on initiative that we're just going to sit still and not do anything. We've won. So I do think that unless somebody from somewhere else puts the rejection down on us, puts the kibosh on us, I think we win. I think we get that employee, and I think that I think we probably get moved to a different physical location, and we get some new office furniture. Anybody else? Any other conversation about this? Any other comments about any of this?
I don't know if it does anything. Like, it sounds crazy that we might go through all that for nothing to happen, just because of my past experiences.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of bosses tend to be stuck in their ways, and
Very
they
much.
tend not to be willing
Yeah.
to what's the word? Especially, yeah, like, especially in like retail, like they tend not to be willing to like give at all.
Mhm.
Um, I think a lot of them are on power trips. So
Mhm.
essentially, they don't want to hear from you. They don't care what you have to say. They don't care if it saves the company money because the idea didn't come from their head,
Mhm.
and therefore it's not valid. That's what I usually find the case to be.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about with inertia, to try and get, inertia is a body in motion tends to stay in motion. A body at rest wants to stay at rest. And we're talking about trying to get somebody to move off their butt. That's what we're really talking about. And that's exactly what you're talking about, Tyler, is that they don't want to have to do something because it's going to make change because everybody is so familiar with how we're doing it right now. That's why, we just have to have an overwhelming argument. Yeah, and you're right. There's a lot of bosses out there that don't necessarily want to take your advice. I don't know if I had mentioned this to this class. I'll go through this, and I'm going to apologize if I already told you this story. But when I was when I worked for the law firm that I worked for, one of the things that I did was I did some work for the bankruptcy department because I have an accounting background. I did money. I could do numbers. Very few lawyers can do numbers. There's not a lot in the legal training that's going to require you to be able to handle numbers and do math. But I was one that could. So I ended up with a lot of the bankruptcy work because there's a lot of calculations in bankruptcy. And so I did a lot of work for the partner who headed up the bankruptcy department. And one day he had given me one of the files. He handed it to me. He said, "I want you to go through here and I want you to look for a certain thing." I can't remember what the project was, but he wanted me to look through the file and do some work on it. So I started paging through the file, and I was reading through. I saw a letter that he had written, that the partner had written to the customer. That was, and this was a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, so it was a big company that was trying to reorganize. It was not just trying a liquidation or anything. This was a big file. And I'm reading this, and it had a lot of very complex issues in it. And I'm reading a letter that was written by the partner to the client. And as I was reading through the letter, I was very much impressed with the depth of his analysis and the way that he presented all of the issues in the letter from him to the client. And I thought, wow, that's why he's a partner, because that's really good work. And then I flipped to the very next piece of paper in the file, and the very next piece of paper in the file was a memo that I had written to the partner about the complex legal issues in this particular bankruptcy. And then I took the two pieces of paper and I held them side by side. All he did was he cut and pasted my memo onto the letterhead, added the inside address and the salutation, and signed his name. Okay. Did I care? No, it was his client, and I did the work for the partner. I understood that he was going to stand on my shoulders, but don't discount the fact that oftentimes the boss will take credit for your work if your work is good enough. So if we put together this particular proposal to hire a new employee and do it in such a way that we really, if you take out of this the advantage to us as a department, and you take out of it the personal benefits to the boss, and you leave in there just the benefits to the company, that is something that our boss could just cut and paste our stuff into a memo that he sends to his boss to make himself look like he's this intelligent, genius. Hey, I was just contemplating the other day, and I decided that if I added another employee to the accounts payable department, these are the positive effects that would have on the company. And even we're just doing the dollars and cents side of it, right? You could talk about reputation and things like that, and I'm sure he would have left that in. But even if you just look at the stuff, and that's one of the reasons that I left those in there, because we need for him to have an argument for when he goes to his boss. So Tyler, yeah, you're right. Very often they don't want to do anything and they are very lazy about stuff. But I've also found it to be in the business world a very a very common occurrence where your boss will take your work, if it's good work, and claim it as his own and go up the ladder with your work and get the credit. You know, I don't know how many people during my career have gotten raises and bonuses on work that I've done underneath them. I've seen it. I can't even count the number of times that I've seen my work go up a couple of levels because my boss decided, yeah, that's a good idea. Then all of a sudden it was his work and not my work. Yeah, I guess I never was extraordinarily good at playing the internal politics game, and maybe there was a way of dealing with that. But I was always of the hope that if my boss was able to get benefit from my work, that hopefully he would turn around and spread some of that goodwill. Not necessarily telling the boss that it was, you know, the boss's boss that it was my work, but you know, maybe when it came time for a raise or a bonus, that might help out. But you know, that's the other side of this, is if you make it so much to his advantage so that he can claim the work as his own, you might still get what you're looking for. You know, I agree. Inertia is a tremendous obstacle, and trying to get somebody off of their behind to do something is a tremendous feat. It can happen, you know. I know what I wanted to say. In our list of things that we had out there were others that we could easily have put in there, because let's just take it from this point of view. Let's say that you're in that department. Like I said, you know, for a while working the overtime is kind of cool, because now you're going to have all this extra money. You know, you were hired at $40,000 a year, and now all of a sudden you're getting an additional $20,000 or $15,000 a year because of overtime. That's, you know, like getting a major raise, right? But at what point in your life, at what point during the year do you say, I am getting tired of working 50, 60 hours a week? This can't go on forever. You know, anybody that, I don't know, are any of you out there accounting majors? Because accountants, they work their tails off during tax season. You know, I don't know of any CPA that works less than 70 hours a week during tax season. But you know how many hours they work during the summer? Maybe 25 or 30, because they take their time off, because nobody can work those kind of hours constantly. Okay. The other problem that we have in the department is we have, and we talked about it, morale, the employee morale is very low. How many times are we going to have an employee quit? A lot. We're going to have a lot of disgruntled employees that are unhappy that their work-life balance is not where they want it to be. Yeah, they're making more money than they thought they were going to get at the beginning of the process. But at a certain point, it's like, I don't want the extra money anymore. I want the time off. So what's going to happen? You're going to have employee turnover. So if you want to even make these arguments are out there too, because of bad employee morale, we have a constant turnover of employees. The average seniority of an employee in this department before they quit is 2 years. Thus, you know, that's why me with 10 years of experience, I've got more seniority than anybody else in the department, because everybody else quits after 1.5 years, 2 years, 2.5 years, whatever it is, because they get burned out. We have costs in training new employees, don't we? You know, we have to go through the process. How much time and effort is wasted hiring a new employee? A tremendous amount. You know, I've been in situations with companies where the company's position was, hey, you don't want the job? There are plenty of people waiting in line to have this job. Well, that's not today's job market, is it? You know, I had the disadvantage of looking for jobs or being employed in times where there were more people looking for work than there are now. So, hey, you don't want this job? I got 5 people that want this job. I can let you go and hire somebody tomorrow. I've got 5 resumes on my desk right now for your job. Versus today's world, no, people are quitting because they're dissatisfied, because they believe they can get a better job someplace. Well, how do we make the employees happy? We waste money and productivity by being short-staffed, while we look for somebody to replace who's quit. We are wasting productivity training the new employee. Well, let's get somebody with an accounting degree. They'll come in and they'll know what they're doing. Yeah, they have the book learning, but they have no idea how to use our systems. They have no idea what our internal controls are. We have to teach them that. You're going to have a 2-3 week period where they're not going to be of any use to you. They're going to be on the payroll, but they're not going to really get any productivity in. Not to mention the 2 weeks that you went without an employee. Once again, you have a lot more productivity if you're able to keep your employees in their jobs. So, if you wanted to get sophisticated with the calculation, I was talking about there being basically 75 hours worth of overtime per week. If we put in one additional person at 40 hours, then we would take up 60 hours of pay. That additional 15 that I'm leaving as unattended out there, that could very easily be the extra overtime that we go through during the year when we're covering for somebody that has quit or we have somebody new in training. You could even put that argument in there. And once again, that is an argument that our boss could make to his boss when he cuts and pastes our documents and sends it up to the boss's boss with his signature on it to make him look good. It's another thing, realistically in the communication world here, is that you never really know who is going to be reading what you prepare. Think about it. If you send something to if you were to send something to me completely unrequested, just unsolicited, if I have a secretary and my secretary, it's her job to go through and just toss out junk mail and only push through to me things that are important. You got a gatekeeper you got to go past. You got to get past that person who decides whether it's important enough to send that along to me. Then you give, then let's say that your letter makes it to me and I look at it and I think, wow, this is really well thought out and this is some interesting stuff. And I give it to my boss. Professor Koss is the head of the department. He's the chairman of the department. So I give your letter to Professor Koss. Koss thinks it's a great idea and he sends it up to the dean. You sent it to me, and all of a sudden, after having to go through a lower level gatekeeper to even get to me, it's gone up 2 levels and you don't even know that happened. You never know who's going to read your work. In this situation, I sincerely doubt that our boss would just send our request up to his boss. I certainly think that he would take our arguments and make them in his favor so that it would be favorable to him. But just think about it. Our argument, our communication jumped 2 levels. We didn't know that. I didn't know when I was doing that work at the law firm exactly who was going to end up looking at my work. I didn't believe that the partner was going to take my word for word. Honest to God, it was word for word. He didn't do anything other than add a greeting and a nice close at the end, sincerely. But these things happen. These things happen. Tyler, maybe we are banging our head against the wall. Maybe we're never going to get what we ask for, but we got to try. And this is the way to try. Okay. I do want to take attendance. I haven't taken attendance yet, so let's do that. All right. Nevaeh Arnold. Nevaeh? No? Jacob Blackburn?
No, I'm right here. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, there you are. Jacob's here too. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All righty. Melina?
Here.
Okay. Okay. Juliana Ely?
Here.
Okay. Devin Giavengo?
Here.
All right. Autumn Gorley? Autumn?
Here.
Okay. Emily Grandy?
Here.
Okay. Raymond Jackson? I saw Raymond out there. Yeah. Jason Masciantonio? Jason? Wow.
Sure.
Drop. Okay, thank you. Hang on a second. I just dropped my thing again. I guess I have to hit yes to get out of here. All right, Jason said yes. Bennett Medlin? Medin.
Here.
Jacob Masinsik?
Here.
All right. Madison Murray?
Here.
Okay, Cora Post?
Here.
Okay, Joseph Shoemaker?
Here.
Austin Seco?
Here.
River Sorg?
Here.
Okay, Lawrence Thompson?
Here.
All right, Walter Tolliver? Walter? No. Seon
Here.
Okay, Tyler, you're here, and Jacob Zilka. No, Jacob? Okay. All right, that's everybody. Hit save attendance. All right, basically we have, I guess, 7 minutes left if we wanted to continue down that road. I think we'll just call it a day here. That's a good, geez, oh man, I'm dropping everything. Let's just call it a day here. Let me get back to the right page on my screen. We'll call it a day here, remembering that you still have the a few minutes till 5 o'clock to turn in your cover letter. Remember that we will very likely be in the classroom together on Tuesday. So I'll see you in AC 40 on Tuesday. I will be back for my office hours on Monday. So my office hours are 10:30 till 2:30 on Monday. If anybody that wants to stop by because they have anything to talk about, I should be in my office, AC 30. Beyond that, that's all I've got. So hopefully I'll get a chance to be critical of your writing next week. I will not assign this next assignment until I return that cover letter to you. So you have the opportunity to incorporate any changes or suggestions that I make. If not, we're done. I'll see you guys next week.
Good evening.
Have a good one.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Professor Gamolchak,
Yes, ma'am.
you put the cover letter submission in February 28, March 6th. Was there any way, do you want to move that up? Because at first I couldn't find it. I was like, I don't see the submission portal, but you just
Oh.
put it down a couple weeks.
No, it's actually supposed to be due today. So if that's an issue, just get it in, even if it's late. It's not going to be a problem.
Yeah, it's just I
for me.
didn't see the portal, so I was like, oh, where's it? And then I scrolled down and it was just it was ahead a few weeks.
Okay, I'll bring it up to where it belongs. Thank you for
All right.
letting me know. Thank you, Autumn.
Have a good day.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.